going to start from left to right, because that's the way I read. If you will all introduce yourselves, I'd appreciate that. And Amy, I think we're ready to do you.
I'm glad it's that Amy.
Gotta watch out for this lady too.
That's right.
So yes. All right, so left to right. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Chris Walker. My son Brandon graduated last year, and my daughter Haley is currently a sophomore, and they've been here about 8 years.
Stephanie Marsh. I have my daughter, my oldest daughter graduated from here last year, first year of college, and I also have a junior here, and we've been here about 5 years.
I'm Debbie Davies. My son goes here, he's a junior. We've been here since fifth grade, and I'm also a resource teacher 3 days a week at Briarwood.
I'm Amy Trainer. I have 2 kiddos, both with learning differences. My oldest is a senior this year, and my youngest is in 8th grade. And I'm also the director of middle school here. So,
my name is Mary Whaley, and I have 2 kids. One that's 29 and one that's 26, and my 26-year-old daughter went here. She graduated in 2016, and she went here 11 years. So, and I'm on the board twice.
I'm Angela Brown. I have 2 children, one that's a senior, not here, and then I have another one that's a freshman here. In total, Joshua's been here about 5 years.
Thank you guys for being here. We have some questions on the board that I want to address, but I want to start with first. For those of you who have seniors or your child has graduated, what can parents get ready for as far as ADHD, getting their executive functioning, keeping them organized when you're not there to say pick up your broom, don't forget to take a shower, all those things. What can y'all share with us?
Oh boy.
A lot of prayers. A lot of prayers.
Well, I'll say this for mine, for Brandon, like I say, he's a freshman in college this year, and it was a little scary thinking about that transition, because he was the typical teenage boy, was not always the most organized, and kind of a little bit lazy in certain areas and things like that, but it has worked out really, really well. I think giving them some of that responsibility helps. Of course, sometimes it has to be forced on them, but I think doing that in advance will definitely help with the process, if they're looking to move on to college or whatever environment they're moving on to next, where they are living on their own, possibly. And I'll say some of the things that he's run into since he's been there are things he didn't think about, and really I didn't think about were coming, and he's just kind of rolled with the punches and kind of, done a lot better than I would have expected.
Where is he at school?
North Texas, UNT.
And they have a support.
They do. It's more of academic support for him, but they do have that, yes. I mean, you have to go through there. They have a whole division that deals with that all by itself.
And that's been successful. That's
Very much so.
worked for him. Okay.
Very much so. Yeah, he has certain accommodations he can use in different classes. Sometimes he needs them, sometimes he doesn't. The professors have all been very good about it. He went through their department of, I think it's Department of Disabilities, and I forget the exact name of it, but they sent all his professors emails before the semester started. I'm kind of saying, Brandon Walker, these are the certain needs he has, and then they told him to follow up as well, so he did. He would send emails to them, the same kind of thing, and to introduce himself, and they would kind of communicate a little bit, and so far it's worked out really well.
Stephanie, I'm gonna skip you for a quick second and we'll go all the way over to Mary. So I know that your daughter went to Lynn in Boca Raton, Florida. I got to visit it this summer and it is beautiful. Tell us about her transition all the way across the country.
She wanted to go out of state, I think, because her older brother went to school out of state, and I think that was she got that in her head. And so it was a little rocky to begin with, but Lynn had a great support program, and that's one of the reasons she chose it. They have a learning difference program. Everybody on campus by no means is in the program. You can opt in or out at any point in time. You have have a mentor, that's somebody that assigned to you, if you stay in it all 4 years. Katie's was this woman named Emily, and that was her person that she talked to. Do you have a problem with your roommate? Do you have a problem with your teacher? And helped her navigate things like that. She also had mandatory tutoring 3 hours a week when she was a freshman, and you could apply for more, ask for more if you needed. The idea is by the time you're a junior or senior, you don't need that as much, and so you've backed away from it, or you may not even be in the program at all. But it was a really good campus. I'm gonna say, I can't remember, like maybe 3,500 or something like that. It's got a master's program there. It's a beautiful campus, and it was a good fit for her. And Florida Atlantic is across the freeway,
Yes.
which is the big school with the football team and all the the tailgate. So she had all that experience and the kids in town, but she went to a smaller school.
I got to tour both of them and spent some time at Florida Atlantic, and I was surprised I ran across several students who are taking classes at both schools. And it has a huge learning support program. I was very impressed with it as well. So thank you. Stephanie, you have one, a freshman.
I do. I have a freshman in college. She's at McMurray University in Abilene. And our original plan was that she was going to go to community college for the first couple of years and then transfer to university. And so we went to visit the university that she wanted to transfer to. And she wanted to go to a smaller school, and McMurray is a small university. The student-teacher ratio is like 12 to 1. I mean, it's really, really small. But when we went to visit, she looked at me and said, I think I want to go here as a freshman. So the 2 years that I thought I was going to have her still at home to start, really making her, take care of everything, got taken away from me at the last second. And I think, for the most part, start early, teaching them how to do their laundry, teaching them, making sure that they don't, they're picking up after themselves and doing, know how to do the dishes and cook and all that stuff. But I think I've spent a lot of time underestimating my kids. I hate to say it, but I spent a lot of time looking. Every time we'd get their Iowa test scores, when they were little, I would just cry. I was like, are they ever going to be able to live on their own? And I spent a lot of time underestimating both of them, and they just do it. She's doing well. She's taking care of it. She's doing fine. She's making good grades. She's in college. She's exceeded my expectations so far, and I think we spent all this time hovering over them and helping them every step of the way, and it pays off. I mean, they do it. They get it done.
Debbie, tell us a little bit about Reese. What are you doing at home? He's a junior. What are you doing now, and what are you doing at home to make life peaceful?
Peaceful.
Do you know
I can't trip in today.
She sends Reese to my
That's where you get peace.
She generates
Exactly.
peace.
To get ready for college, I sent them to Amy's house. In terms of how I'm getting him ready, Reese is an independent person. He's always me. So I don't have, he's the one that gets himself up at 5, gets himself to cross country. That has not been our issue. Even though he's got ADD, he has been super responsible for himself. Our challenge is more the oppositional defiance. But it's mild oppositional defiance. It's where you'll say X and he'll say no, it's Y. And you know what I mean? And so you'll have this debate, like today, example in the car, I'm saying, well, he hasn't done so well in a math test, and it was mainly vocabulary. So as he says, I know the concept, and it was mainly the vocabulary. So I said, okay, so how can we rectify this? What steps can we do? How can we self-advocate? And he's like, I can't do anything. And so it's sort of like, and whatever I suggested, he was opposed to. So that is where we have, I have to be really, really patient. And I've also had to adjust the way that I see, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted him to change, and I realized, actually, no, my perception has got to change. So I've got to see him through a different light. And I know he's got challenges, and I've got dyslexia, and he's got dyslexia too. My dyslexia is really different to his. And you know what I mean? So, that also goes on a different tangent, is sort of like, we classify these kids as got learning differences. Each one is so unique and so individual and presents so differently, and working here, you really, really see it. And it's really about like, how can I meet my kid where he is at? Yeah, and so that's what like our biggest challenge, and it's really taken me to change, not Reese. It's really like, how can I meet this kid? Because it's easier having a typical kid. I've got 2 kids that are mainstream doing really well, and it's been, Reese has taught us more than those 2 kids. You know what I mean? We've really, you know, it's been humbling. And thank God I've got my dad, he's very similar to my son, and he is super successful. And so, you know what I mean? So I've always got that in my mind, okay, my dad was amazing, you know, at this. But does he have the EQ? No. You know, does he pick up on, you know, social clues? No. So it's really been like, okay, I know that Reese is going to be successful, I've got a model here, but how do I, you know, as a mom, support that and see it in a different light?
Thanks for saying it that way. I appreciate that, because I think every student is different, and you do learn that when you're here, because as you said, dyslexia looks different for you and from your son. ADD looks different. I have twins who both have ADHD, and they're entirely different. Just 2 kids born on the same day, but very, very different how they present with their LDs. And so, thank you. I appreciate that. Ms. Trainer, not as the director of middle school, because that's a whole different ballgame. Tell us about what you're doing to get your senior ready. He's in a big public school, so he's used to a lot of people around. And then you have Olivia, who's now in public school, but who was here. Tell us what you're doing to get them ready, how to make life at home peaceful. I'm gonna stick with that word, peaceful.
Well, I think that I would love it if it was peaceful. It's never peaceful. But being a professional first, before I was a parent, I've been supporting kids for 23 years differently, and I've been a parent for almost 18 years. And I got gifted with 2 kids that have learning needs. What I have done from the very beginning, kindergarten, 1st grade, is we've always had summer of independence. And every summer, the kids are tasked with learning something else to take care of themselves. And so I don't do laundry anymore for them. They do their own laundry. They've been doing that for years. We, you know, started small with the dishwasher or sweeping, laundry, basic cooking, to now you're responsible for your bathrooms. Now, you know, and so we've done some of those things, so they've had to kind of acclimate to balancing things a little at a time, and have developed the skills where it's like, it's not a big deal when I say, you know, they know they need to do their laundry, and they just do their laundry, and sometimes put it away. But I can't get too picky. So that's something that we do. We also have a lot of structure around technology and expectations, because especially with my oldest, who has very intense ADHD, the effect of technology has on him, not even just in the moment, but in the next day or 2 even to come. And he's recognized that about himself now that he's almost 18, which is glorious to see. I never thought we'd get there. But you know, technology doesn't go upstairs. He's got more flexibility now because we're in this stage of getting ready to go to college. I'm like, okay, I need to trust you that when you're up in the kid office, you're doing what needs to be done. This is on you. Don't lose the scholarship you earned, right? Or you're not going. And so all the technology is downstairs. They don't have TVs in their room. The plus side of technology is that he has developed a lot of good habits using like Alexa and things for reminders and timers. So we have Alexas everywhere. And so we can communicate that way, which keeps the peace, but also setting timers and reminders from wherever you are. He texts and says, hey, remind me to do this. I said, set an alarm on your phone and set an Alexa reminder for yourself. I'm not gonna do it for you anymore, but these are the tools that you have, so. Does that answer what you were asking? Okay.
Miriam, stay for a second. Tell us what you're doing with Josh. Tell us a little bit about Josh.
I don't know. Joshua is just been independent since day 1. But I will say that now that he's a freshman in high school, something like a switch clicked. Maybe it's because with my senior, we went to go visit colleges during spring break, and I think he kind of like got excited about, oh, you know, maybe I can do this one day. So we told him, when you get to high school, you know, it's really gonna be important. It's on you. It's a permanent record. You know, you really need to worry about your GPA and things of that nature. So, I mean, something has just clicked and it's changed, and now he's waking himself up in the morning, he's making his own breakfast, he gets himself ready. You know, I just gotta, sometimes I'll occasionally check his binder just to make sure it's not like overloaded with paperwork and, you know, hey, where does this need to go? I'll just remind him, let's, you know, put it in its appropriate categories, but I mean, he so far is doing pretty well on his own. I mean, are my kids messy? They are messy. I mean, I was a messy child, so, and we've survived. So that's how I'm like, I'm not gonna sit there and fight with them about picking up their room and stuff like that. I have other things to worry about, so, whenever they need something clean, you know, bring it down and we'll wash it and we'll just move on with life, but I'm not that much of a stickler on things like that.
So picking and choosing your battles.
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna fight all day long. I mean, we're trying to get out the door, and when we get home, you know, we all need our space, so we kinda like are in our own corners in the evenings, but I mean, we do eat dinner together and stuff like that, but I mean, he loves to cook. I mean, he tries to make his own pasta from scratch. Yeah, I mean, he's getting some gadgets for Christmas so that way he can cook, so, he'll be excited about that, but I mean, yeah, he's just, he brought to school some freeze-dried Skittles that he ordered, and I'm just like, and now he wants a freeze-dry machine. I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid, so anyhow, it's funny. But when talking about technology, I mean, I let him have it. He wanted a 3D printer, so we got him one for Christmas, and he makes things with it. And, you know, he made fidget spinners, and, you know, just things that he can sell, and he's talking about doing some diorama, and he's gonna make the Titanic, and bought resin, and I'm like, okay, you do you. I mean, he's just creative, and I just let him be. I don't wanna mess with that, so.
Okay. Mary, tell us, your journey's a little different from everyone else, because you have adults now.
I do have adults, it's kind of weird. No, she came here, first grade, was tears and crying, and I'm like, this is not what first grade should be. She had a child in her room that led me to believe that some kids just aren't wired right. And this kid had some pretty severe problems, and now in retrospect, and 27 years later, he probably would have been asked to leave the school she was in way before the end of the year. So by the time she left there, she was the kid that was just, she held it in at school. She was the model child. She was happy, she was perfect, and she would get home and just fall apart. And I was like, first grade is not supposed to be tears and crying. And at the first, we looked at a lot of schools in Houston. At that time, this was the only school that looked like a real school. There are several now, but at the time, this looked like a school that her brother would go to. And that's what I wanted for her was, you know, to go to a school that looked like the school across the street from my house, you know. So that's why she came here, and you know, we kind of set it up as, we're gonna go there, we're gonna see how it is, and she would say, well, how long do I have to be there? And I'm like, well, we're gonna be there as long as we think things are working. And that's the one thing that I told a lot of people over the years that had kids that came here. Telling your kids, we're gonna be here for a year, and then you're gonna be able to go back, or 2 years, whatever. Those kids never settled in. We never put a date on it, but those kids that thought, oh, I have to be here for a year or two, and then I'm gonna get to go back to my regular school. And they might, and she might have. In the end, we found out it was just a better fit for her. You know, she had an unusual class. It was pretty small. There were only 16 or 17 in her graduating class by the time we ended up. But it was just a really good fit for her. And she, like a lot of typical middle school girls, can be difficult, you know. One of the things we did is we got a tutor or a coach that I didn't have to do homework with in the afternoon. We had somebody come 2 or 3 days a week, and at different points in times it was a high school student or a college student or whatever. And it was just so, and one of the girls I had for several years just sat with Katie. She did her homework at the same time Katie did, but that way there was not that fight with me and her over anything. And by the time she had interaction with me, things were great. Because you don't want to set it up. Yeah, but you don't want to set it up as the only thing you're ever doing is telling you, do your homework, do this, do your, pick up your laundry, all this kind of stuff. And so that was something that really helped us. But, she's quite successful and happy and lives on her own and does a great job, and so it's good.
Thank you. What questions do you all
Dreams
have?
do come true.
What questions do you all have for them that could help you have peace at home.
Amy, you mentioned the Summer of Independence, and I've heard that from another parent. I love the concept. Can you give us some examples of things that, you mentioned doing your own laundry. Can you give us a few examples of some of the things that you did each summer?
Yeah, I relied on, there's a lot of publications out there about like what jobs, chores are developmentally appropriate for students. And so, in looking at that and looking at what I know we all have to do and know how to do as grown-up people to manage, started small. Sorting the laundry, unloading the dishwasher. Olivia started this the summer after kindergarten, so just small things. And then we worked into laundry, and she does her laundry now, but Dan, my husband, always jokes that it was a lot of work on me to help get them to the point where they are now, because I still had to help them develop those independent skills.
Right.
I still had to help them learn how to clean their bathroom and show them what, and do all of those things. But now they do it.
Yeah.
So it really just depends, what your kids are already doing, what you know that they need to develop, and really about stepping back and letting them do it,
Yeah.
and expecting them to do it, and not rescuing them.
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes they have to do it wrong.
they
Yeah,
have to
letting
do,
them
they have to do
fail.
it wrong, letting them fail. Oh,
Sure.
I'm a huge proponent of like learning from your mistakes and just growing from them, because if you don't have mistakes, you don't learn. So if you don't ever let your kids stumble, you're not giving them an opportunity to regroup themselves, and I think that's something we all struggle with. Like, we all know they struggle, and we want to alleviate as much of that as we can.
Yeah.
But if we do that, everybody's not gonna do that. The world is not built that way.
Right.
And we don't give them the opportunity to develop those personal skills that they have to do to be like, okay, well, this didn't work, what can I do differently? I'm gonna get emotional about it, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
That's part of growing up, and if we take that away, then we're not doing them any good
Yeah.
parenting.
Well,
for
and you
sure.
made the comment about underestimating your kids, and I think societally, go back 100 years and people are on the back of plow horses when they're 7. So, it's like,
Yeah.
I think that as a society, we just universally underestimate what our kids are capable of.
So let me
So,
add to that. Reese and Graves, my son, and Debbie's son are very good friends, and they do a lot together. So they have cooked in my house together. They have learned to change a tire together, and somebody will be there to help guide them. So have a friend.
yeah.
Definitely have a friend to help through some of this stuff, because it takes some of that fight out. Well, we'll just be tortured together. It'll be fun. It'll be 15, 20 minutes learn how to do this task, and then we get to go and do something fun. So make it fun.
Well, honestly, like we've found out, with kids going to college, the things they don't know, they will figure out.
Right.
Sometimes the hard way.
Right.
Real quick.
Sometimes they burn ramen in the microwave, but they will learn themselves. And like I said, sometimes it's by mistakes. But they're not going to be helpless forever.
Yeah.
The things they don't know from you at home, they will find out.
Yeah,
And I
find
like
it-
that one of you said, don't rescue them. I think as
Yeah.
parents that's
Yeah.
our
It's natural.
go-to,
Yeah.
to rescue them, but to let them fall and fix it themselves.
But they do figure it out, because I noticed, like with Olivia, I was really nervous about her being in a dorm situation. Her dorm room would fit in her bedroom
Yeah.
at home. And I just thought, how in the world is she gonna share a space with somebody else and not drive them absolutely bananas with her stuff everywhere? Because I spent a lot of time, probably should have backed off, but I didn't. I'm like, oh my God, how do you live like this? Can you clean? I can't even see the floor. And, but she FaceTimes me almost every day from her dorm room. Sometimes I say, show me your floor. But I can see
Right,
it.
enough of this. Let's
You
see
know
the
what? But she's living in very small quarters with someone else, and she's doing fine. And we went up for parent weekend, and I thought, oh, what am I gonna be walking into? And I know they probably got everything all nice and neat, but going into their shared bathroom and everything, it wasn't terrible. I was like, okay, they're figuring it out. They are.
What other questions do you all have?
I was just gonna say, because all our kids kind of went through the same experience at the same time. Gregory's experience is almost exactly what y'all are going through. Lean into, first of all, I just simply say, everybody's smart. This is exactly what we need to hear. But I think part of our issue with letting our kids make mistakes and do things is because we had to mitigate all of these problems from the beginning. Like with Gregory, it was from day one. There was something happened. I felt like we were doing whack-a-mole with all the stuff that we had to help him with. But So she's like, oh, he's been doing that for ages. And I'm like, so I think it's first of all, we bring our kids here to this space and trusting the professionals to do what they do so well here. And then watching the kids put that into action. You know, go, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. You were doing it. And Gregory, exact same way, I'm like, how does he have a roommate? Like, he's such a slob, but they're muddling their way through, and he's trying, like, every day he's calling me, doing new things, he's doing fencing, he's doing all this stuff, and they come from this atmosphere where we have so carefully sheltered them for so long, and now we're like sending them to big public schools and off to the distance past Abilene, and so it is a little scary to trust them, but it goes back to that old phrase we used to say, I trust the process, because that's what he brought him here to do, is to get these skills, and he's actively using skills that he learned here to advocate for himself. He goes to our Office of Disability Services, the OSD, and has a relationship with that group already, so I think those are all wonderful things. I love what you said, Amy, on the Summer of Independence. I did that too. I'm like, I am not the maid here. Y'all are old enough to plunge your toilet. Teach your kids how to plunge our toilets.
It's an important skill.
Yes, that's a neat little handy skill.
I agree with the Summer of Independence, and it came about for me with my twins out of necessity. I worked in town and lived on the other side of town. So if they forgot their swimsuit for swim lesson or swim class, oh well, because I wasn't driving back to get it. And so they had to become very independent. If you know you're swimming tomorrow, pack all that and get it to the door where you won't forget it. Lunch, Mom, we forgot our lunch. Oh well, you're chubby anyway, you'll be okay. And that's, I did, and I was like, what am I supposed to do? I'm at work.
This is our counselor.
Well, I'm a mom, no. And so as a mother, I never had the opportunity to rescue them because I wasn't physically able to do so. So they just had to figure it out. And so when they left to go to college, my ex-husband now, both of us were like, what are we gonna eat? Because they're the ones that cooked. And so he literally cried. He's like, Jasmine, you didn't even leave anything frozen. Like, because I didn't do those things because I just physically was not able to do it for them. And so I know when they went away to school, I thought about, like I said, Janine is very different from Jasmine. Her room right now, they still live with me. I'm trying to get them to go, but they won't. Her room was a mess, but in college, it was perfectly neat. I'm like, what is the deal? Well, there's people in my room. Okay, but you were in my house. Well, yeah, but it's my own room. Like, you don't have to come up here. So they even know where they can get away with the things that bother us. You know what I mean? If I go to her room right now, it's probably a pigsty, and Jasmine's is perfectly neat. And so I think when we're doing things and letting them fail and just giving them those tools, they do figure it out. They do become resilient. They are both working very good with their budgets. They never have come to me and said, hey, I overspent, or I need overdraft protection, or any of those things. And I didn't necessarily teach them that. I just said, don't spend more than you have. If you're working, you know what you need to do. You know you need to give to church. You know you need to save, et cetera, et cetera. And they are doing that. Well, they just happen to show me we're almost there for what we could put down on a house. And I was like, yes. And they're like, but we're not moving yet. We're going to stay home for another couple of years. And I get that too. I get that too. And I was very self-conscious about what are my friends thinking that my 28-year-olds are still at home. And then I thought, why am I worried about what other people think? Let them be at home for however long they need to be, right? They were looking at apartments for $1,800 a month. Who can afford that at, first job? And so I love that you guys are saying, give them that summer of independence. I definitely did that. I let the dishwasher be broke and didn't replace it. For almost 6 months, I about died. But they were like, oh, we have to hurry up and get a dishwasher because who's going to do the dishes? And I thought, oh, we're a little entitled. Let's not get a new dishwasher. We have 2 of them right here. And so they learned to do the dishes because I didn't make it easy for them. Same thing with the housekeeper. I wouldn't let her clean their room or their bathrooms. Like, no, you're not taking a housekeeper to school with you to college. You've got to learn to do it. So I think our parent side makes us rescue them, but the world is not going to do that. And we've got to let them do it. And the sooner they start, the better, is my opinion.
I think one of the biggest things that I feel that my kids have learned at Briarwood is how to advocate for themselves. I mean, and you hear this on repeat over and over again, but I spent all their lower school and middle school years, just, telling them, you just need to advocate for yourself, you just need to do this, and, the school was always, trying to help them do it. But they really do learn it, it really does happen, and I think especially like junior, senior year, now my junior that's here, she advocates constantly for herself. She wants to keep her grades up and she knows what she has to do. And then watching Olivia do this in college now, she's doing it. And I'm like, oh, it stuck, and finally it did. And so I think it's just a really important skill. And I think that's why, Briarwood's constantly teaching them to do it. But they eventually do it, even when you don't think they are. Because I waited all through middle school and even the first part of high school. I'm like, come on, just go ask the teacher, go ask for more time, and they just wouldn't quite do it. But then right around their junior year, I noticed things just started to kind of flip, and I was like, oh, they get it, okay, good, yay,
And
getting there.
I've worked with all of your children, even yours, Amy, and I can tell you that they do get it. What we see on this side is very different, because y'all are the safe space at home, and so they can be more relaxed. They can kind of shuck the rules a little bit, but we do see it on this side. We know the houses that have structure at home because we can see it the way they carry themselves, the way their binders look. You can go to a particular student and see parents are kind of paying attention at home. And then there's binder blowouts because they don't do that, right? Pick and choose your battles is important, but we do concentrate a lot of time on helping them advocate that executive functioning part, and they do get it. We see it. I see it on the junior trip. I saw it on the DC trip last year. We do see it. So y'all are doing a fantastic job, but we want you to have peace at home. So that's what this whole panel is about, for you to think of other ways and other things to do so you'll be peaceful at home. Because when y'all are peaceful at home, they're peaceful at school.
I'm a teacher. I was just stopping in. But being like neurodiverse, my dad, the biggest gift he ever gave me was like just being a soundboard. And he's like, dang, that does suck. How are you gonna solve that? And it was like, that really pushed that independence piece for me. It was knowing my dad was not going to come in, like unless things got like above my control, but if it was like advocating for myself and stuff, he was like, that does sound like a problem. Let me know. And it was just, it wasn't, I always knew he loved me, but I knew like he was saying, you can do it. You have the power to fix this, so you need to fix this. So it really developed that independence for me.
If I can add just one, like if we're talking just keeping the peace, the one thing that I know, my husband's still trying to learn this, is that they're not gonna do the things, anything in their life the way that you would do it. And so when I know that I have done the things that I need to do, we do the school, we mother, we teach independent skills, we've done these things and we've exposed him and had expectations that I know he's not gonna ever do these the way. I'm not a procrastinator at all. I thought he'd never get his Eagle Scout. I said, you shouldn't do this, there's summer before your junior year so we don't have to worry about it anymore. It was not a great idea at the time. He finally did get it with 4 weeks to spare, but he did it, and so I'm like, well, he's showing me that he knows how to manage this on his own, and I just kind of have to step back and just kind of be a little bit of a guardrail and not get him, because otherwise we're just fighting all the time. So I think that's the biggest thing I would say, is just recognizing that your kids are learning what they need to do, but they won't ever do it the way you would do it.
I've got to go, but I just want to say one last thing, is that I think the biggest thing that has really helped me through this entire journey is support, and it's parent support. It's like being here, and you've got the opportunity in Briarwood to create that. And I know our year group has, and like your spreadsheet, and all your help that you have done for everything. I mean, we have got an amazing group, and if it wasn't for that support, knowing that parents are we're all going through this journey, and it's all different, but it's, you need to reach out. And I think that has been one of the biggest gifts from Briarwood, and but it does take work, and you have to be present, and you've got to, get involved.
Wednesday lunches were the biggest thing when our kids were in lower school. And we would meet at a park, or we would get a mod pizza or whatever, and the kids would run around and play, and we would sit there and say, what's working at your house, what's not working at your house, what are you doing? Are they doing this? What are y'all gonna do this summer? And I would be the terrible mother who's like, oh, Graves is gonna do 20 minutes of typing every you know, because he's dysgraphic and he can't write, and I can't read it, and so, you know, and all those things we would bounce back and forth, so.
And even now with colleges, I mean, like
Yeah.
literally we're all in it together and we're all sharing information. We've done, as I said, an amazing spreadsheet and, you know, we're going to college visits together. We're all sharing information. I think that is really get into the community, right?
Yeah.
You know,
And you're
because
not
that's-
alone, so-
You're not alone. That's the thing.
Somebody's probably dealt with it before.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions?
No, our son is only 9, so he has a while, but these are some
This is
great,
phenomenal.
yeah, great, like, the reminders. I never thought about, like, you know, using our Google thing to make him set his reminders and things like that.
Reminders are huge.
Right, I never even thought about it.
So I used to, Graves would not leave the house with everything. And so part of executive functioning is they need to have pictures and not lists, something that I learned in a talk here. And I had a frame of his backpack and his lunchbox and his water bottle and whatever, and his sports stuff, and I would put it in front of it in breakfast. And we're walking out the door and I'm like, do you have everything you need to be successful today? And that's how we got through that. We also had to do that with deodorant and toothpaste and the other stuff too, but you know, but pictures are really good for the executive functioning side of
Right,
it.
right, yeah, so we're just taking it all in,
Yeah, the reminders are huge.
yeah.
I mean, shoot, I set
We do it.
so many
Well,
reminders
I
myself.
I
you
set
know.
reminders all the time.
I know, I have
Ava,
tons
my
of them,
junior.
like, they go off all day, and sometimes I forgot why I set
Yeah.
this one, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, my junior does that a lot. She'll come home, she's the kid that comes home, and she works really hard during the day, and she'll come home and she gets a snack first thing, and then she says, okay, Mom, I'm gonna, either she'll go read, she's dyslexic, she loves to read, but she'll either go read, or maybe she will go watch TV for 30 minutes or whatever it is, or maybe she'll just go lay down, but she will set an alarm for herself and say, okay, I'm gonna give myself 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then I'm gonna do my homework. And she'll, you know, and then I hear the alarm go off, and then she'll get up and she'll do it. And sometimes she'll set an alarm, if she's got a lot of homework, she'll set an alarm for 45 minutes to work on homework, and then at 45 minutes, she'll take another break.
Right.
You know, and
That's
she
important,
uses,
to be able to
yeah,
take a
she
break.
uses her phone and Alexa to set to set timers for, you know, so she, by the time she goes to bed, she's pretty much gotten it all done.
And that's been statistically proven to be the best, 45 minutes at her age.
Yeah.
Take a 10, 15-minute break and then do something else.
Yeah.
Like switch sides, do math for 45 minutes, take a 15-minute break, then do English for 45 minutes, take a 15-minute break, and go back to math if you have to.
Yeah.
But switching that left brain, right brain.
Yeah, and because they all have their phones, you know, they have timers built in, and anyway, everybody uses it a lot.
On the junior trip, I said, you guys have to use this for more than Snapchat and Facebook or whatever, because it has reminders, it has a calendar, it has, you can tell your calendar to remind you 10 minutes, an hour, the next day, the day before, whatever. And so, as soon as we walked into a college, that's the first thing the lady said. The learning support people will sit down with you and all your syllabuses and your phone and set reminders and timers and all of that. And they just looked at me and I was like, what? I've been here before. And so, doing that, if they're gonna have a phone, right, then make them use it for other reasons. So,
I think for those looking at, you know, colleges too, I mean, it's, I've been really surprised because I went to UT Austin, so I had one college experience, this massive, you know, college experience, and I've been really surprised and elated that there are so many options out there for a real college experience, but not just an overwhelming, like, is my kid gonna be able to do this? I mean, so many colleges have these learning support, and I didn't know about it because I didn't have to use it when I was in college, so I had no idea. So learning.
It wasn't like that when we were in
It's
school.
like, yeah, so I didn't know it was available, right? I don't know.
But even just.
But it's so nice that there's so many options, even in these larger universities, they've got, I mean, your case in point with Gregory, you know, going to Texas State.
Yeah.
Can you, I'm sorry, can you give examples of what, I mean, I can think of accommodations like, here's your multiplication table. I'm assuming it's not that. Can you give us an example of what an accommodation looks like at the college level?
With Brandon, he's allowed extra time on tests.
Okay.
That's
He's
the
allowed
big one.
preferential seating. Because,
quiet
and
rooms.
like she was saying, I was concerned, cause he's been in a small private school since 3rd grade.
Mhm.
You know, whether it was here, he was somewhere before here for a couple of years. And he went to UNT, which is 45,000 people. And he's got a class that has 500 people in it right now. And that was very concerning for me, cause, I mean, you get overwhelmed, you get lost in the crowd, literally. But he gets preferential seating there, they've got a certain area where he can sit. Like I said, he can choose to do it or not. They're not gonna hold his hand and say, okay, come down, here's your seat, Brandon, you know,
Right.
but he gets that choice. And like I said, for the tests, he gets the choice if he tells his professor, hey, I need the extra 15 minutes on this or not.
Okay.
You know, he gets, like in his classes, they'll let him record the lectures, which I think they will anyone, you know, but I don't think they like it, but you know, for him, he doesn't, he took notes and notes and notes and notes, and they weren't helping him. So it helps him to actually record it, go back, and that's really how he learns best. So it's things like that.
Okay.
And I'm sure they have other ones that he does not
Yeah.
have, but those are some of his big
You
ones.
can get a note taker, you can get a reader, you can take a test
Yes.
in a quiet room.
Yep.
You can get extra day on projects, there's all sorts of things. And as we get closer, we'll talk more about it, but I've been privileged to have seen so many schools, of course with my own two, and then being here at Briarwood and at Second Baptist. And what's out there now from when even Jazz and Janine graduated in 2014 is majorly different. State schools will have the bare minimum that they need, and some will go beyond. Lamar goes way beyond for no extra charge. Texas Tech goes way beyond for an extra charge. University of Arizona goes way beyond for an extra charge. So it just kind of depends on you as parents and students. When I get with the students, we talk about what's your goal. If you can convince me, then I'll help you convince your parents. And they know, the parents know that. I say it to them openly, if this is where they want to be, they will do so much better
Oh, yeah.
where they want to be, as opposed to you telling them, you know, our family all went to Baylor, let's say. Okay, that may not be the school for them. And Baylor does have a learning support, but it's very minimal.
Yep.
Because Baylor doesn't need LD kids, if the truth be told, they really don't. Same thing with UT.
Yeah.
They have a program, but it's very minimal, because they don't need LD kids either, because it's UT, right? They're going to get the 60,000 kids they need. So there's schools out there that are really, really good at what they do for LDs. It's just a matter of shopping around. Stephanie created a spreadsheet. I have a similar spreadsheet, and I add some stuff to it, but I've been able to tour some schools. Lynn, I was so impressed. We've had lots of kids go to Lynn. I'd never seen it for myself, so now I can talk to you as a parent, because I went as a parent, not just as a counselor, to ask questions I know you would ask. Like, is there a curfew if you live in the dorm? How many of y'all have asked that?
It's not on my spreadsheet.
Is there a curfew? And the answer is, nowhere I've gone is there a curfew. There is a security way to get in, so after midnight, they have to check a badge, there's a security officer. But for your daughters out there, wouldn't you wanna know if they happen to be in at 12 or 2, or, you know, are they gonna be secure? Those kind of things are the things I ask when I go individually. I wanted to know, at UT Arlington, is there a curfew? Do you have cars? Are cars allowed? Baylor, you cannot bring a car on campus as a freshman. UT, you probably don't want to bring a car because it's $1,800 to park it. And so those are the kind of things that you have to start asking and familiarizing yourself with for every school they're interested in. And some I've done the work for you, but, you know, talk to other parents. They've seen schools I may not have seen. I've seen everything in California and pretty much now all of Texas. Arkansas, I'm gonna go next summer, look at some schools. Oklahoma, I've not visited. But our kids go to a variety of places, with and without.
So I got a question for Mary. You said quiet rooms for Katie. That was one of her accommodations?
Yeah.
So did she use it, but did she also use it, not just to study, but maybe to like decompress?
She definitely used it to take tests.
Okay.
And she's my self-advocate, you talk about it. She learned it here and she does it like today,
Okay.
ad nauseum. So she has no problem asking for help. But yeah, she did different things like that, and her mentor that she had, you know, was just great. We had a family problem with a nephew when Katie was a freshman in school, and this woman, I just called her and said, hey, I need to make sure somebody has eyes on her. She was wonderful, you know, so just knowing that somebody's there 60,000, it's gonna be really hard.
Yeah.
But when you're in a smaller school, if you have a kid that has a learning difference, it's much easier to navigate, but, it's what works for everyone.
So the quiet room was just for tests? It
Just for
wasn't
tests,
Just, so not like you can get a quiet room in the library, you can get one of the private rooms.
But
don't
they
have
do
to.
have
Right.
those in the library.
But even
They do have-
all the,
But they don't
have
go
that.
out and sign up to get one for them.
No, you just
No,
sign
it's-
up as needed basis.
but even like a regular college now has, they have support for if you're writing a paper and you want somebody else to write, read your paper, proof it, give you suggestions. If you go to their libraries and all these, those exist for regular mainstream kids, which, I mean, there was nothing like that.
Brandon's used all that stuff. Like I said, the writing labs where they'll proofread, use the math lab.
I mean, and if
use
they're
all
not
those.
using it, they're crazy.
Yeah.
But
It
some of
works
the
very
schools
well.
have a writing center just for their LD department,
Yeah.
like Texas Tech, like Lamar. So,
I think one of the really,
Thanks,
like, kind of a culmination of what we're hearing here from even with 9-year-old kids and people that are successful is that at Briarwood, what we're able to do in their secondary is really start to prepare kids. Our programming shifts, we're able to work on executive function, we're working on that Pomodoro technique that she's using. We're actually teaching that to our students and how to use your study guides and building those skills that they're gonna need to carry on. And the way that we've shifted our parent conferences, they're student-led now, so that we're teaching them to look at their strengths, to look at what their needs are and be able to talk about that, because it does take time to develop those, but they all need them.
yeah,
So,
for sure. So plug into your parent group too.
So
it's never too early.
I have a question. And, so it's a long way off for us for driving, because I drop Austin off at school in the mornings and I see a couple kids who drive, right? I say, oh man, that's pretty cool. So he says, hey, I'm gonna be driving soon. I said, no, you got some time. So how was that?
Can I address that one?
Yes.
Because I'm gonna tell you one thing, because Katie's older than the rest of them. When Katie and her friend Allie took driver's ed at Safeway, my son had taken it. He took it, we went along the way. 2 days into it, after she started it, we got a call, and so did Allie's parents. And they're like, can you tell us something about this? Because immediately when you go, you take a test. And then I said, so where's your book? And they said, what? And they said, we don't have a book. And I'm like, no. They said, we do the lecture in class and then they take the test. I'm like, if you have a book, I can teach her with the book, but I need to know how you're going to ask the questions. Because as we all know, you can ask a question and the answer you need to know is teach to the test, unfortunately. So we need to know how they're going to ask the question in order how to answer it. And so at that time, it was kind of a big deal, and they were like, no, we have this driving program, and it takes she could register in that one, it'll take 6 months. I'm like, no, she can do this in 4 weeks. I just need the answers to the questions on the test. And then I will teach her at home, we will go over that, but I need something for her to come home with. It never even dawned on me that most of the kids were going in there, just hearing the lecture, not having anything to go home with other than the driver's ed manual that didn't address how they were going to answer the questions, and they were passing that way. And that's why I was like, well, all I need is the answers. At that point in time, they came up, and it took a lot for us to get them to go fill out the test. I'm like, that's all we needed. She can pass it just the same as anybody can. She just needs to be able to study it once she gets home and know how to answer the questions. So that was a big deal for her.
And many of our kids do not start driving when you think they should, like when many of us drove. At 16, the day I turned 16, I was at the DMV. Many of our students put it off a couple of years. One, it's Houston, we drive bad here. 2, anxiety, ADHD, all the distractions out there, and so let them tell you when they're ready. Most of our juniors are driving, but I have seniors that are not driving. And if you ask them, they'll tell you it's the anxiety of going fast, changing lanes, all those kind of things, so they're just not ready yet. I mean, parents, we're ready for them to go, so we are not dropping them off, picking them up, all that stuff, but many times our kids wait some time.
Yeah, and nowadays, I have a 16 and an 18-year-old, and my 16-year-old, on her birthday, when she was 16, she went to the DMV and she got her license. She was dedicated to do this. Now she has ADHD. She does take medication for it. She knows that she needs to take her medication, so that the impulsivity and, that kind of stuff that she deals with is not gonna, make it more difficult. But now, I think especially since COVID, all of the driver's classes are online.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch.
It's all,
Yeah,
yeah,
There's
it's
a
all.
bunch online now.
Now, you can still do like classes, but most of them are all online now.
Yeah,
And,
Brandon, his were all online.
but when I looked at them, I was kind of looking over the shoulder, to kind of see, because they do it on their phones. And, but they're videos, it's not just a bunch of reading, they're videos and they talk to them.
You have to finish the video, it won't let you just skip ahead, so yeah.
They have to do it, and
Yeah.
so, and both my girls, they did the driver's ed. Olivia did not want to get her license right when she was 16. She got it when she was 16, but it was like 6 months in. They took her just a little bit longer because she, needed to be, it just took her longer to do the class. But yeah, they're both good drivers. They do fine. They, I'm still like, they wonder why, every time Ava turns, my hand goes up like this. She's like, oh, that's distracting. I'm sorry. It's just like an automatic response. I'm holding the ceiling.
Don't be afraid to wait if necessary.
Yeah.
I don't have a
Yeah.
Do
problem
they have
with it.
required hours of driving here
Yes.
in Texas? They do?
Yes, they do. Because I'll tell you, with Brandon, he kind of ran into a situation where initially, before he hit 16, he was really inspired to drive, wanted to do it, did all his online courses, and COVID hit, and it kind of shut a lot of things down. And we went to get his permit, and you need the Social Security card for that. And at the time, his mom and I were going through a divorce, and I did not have that. And so the Social Security office was closed for 2 years, like literally. And so he kind of fell out of it and became disinterested and didn't really care. And he was one of those, even as a senior, he wasn't driving to school because he really wasn't that interested.
Well, see, I live in Katy, so I'm feeding mine to the wolves. Like, my son turned 16, and he goes to school in Houston, he learned how to drive, get on that I-10, and Josh is gonna have to do the same thing. Now, we do have a golf cart, so my husband's taking Josh, I'm not getting in that golf cart with him, but Ron will, and drive him around. Cause I don't have the patience for that, but they gotta learn how to drive because I work.
We have twins that live in Simonton, isn't that where they live? And, they both started driving, their parents were like, it's important, we've been bringing them back and then going back out to Simonton, what's on the other side of Fulshire.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and so they,
Every day.
as soon as they got their license,
It's
the
fun.
Whaleys, they started driving in, and it's far. Simonton
it's
is
far.
out there.
Yeah.
It's
I
out
think it's
there.
funny that they don't drive together.
There are days that, they both drive their own truck, because they have different schedules after
Yeah, they got
school.
things to do. Hey, I have one last question. I know everybody's
Yeah.
been here longer than they probably intended to be. One thing that I've seen in our experience is that, and our son is in middle school, and which is a really awkward, terrible time.
Yes, it is.
But they're trying to figure each other out, and they're developing friendships, and friendships are evolving, and so one of the things that I've noticed though is that the class sizes seem to get smaller as they get into high school, and maybe I don't know if that's correct or not, but what I'm wondering is, and I'm sure each class is different, but people come into the school and people leave the school, and so you have this sort of changing pool of potential friends. What I'm wondering is, how do you see the kids, do they all form this big cohesive class group where they're all 16 of them are tight? Or is it there's 3 or 4 of them that are buddies and they kind of get their little cliques? How are you seeing that?
I think, yeah, it's definitely.
So like my son, who's now a freshman, like his 8th grade class, like the majority of the boys left.
Okay.
And so there's just like, what, 8 boys, I think, in 9th grade right now?
8 or 10.
It's like, there's not that many. So he does have his little clique, it's a few, but he still is friends with the kids that he's known for the past several years, and they're still playing video games online. There's like Eli, I don't know, his name is Eli, and he lives in Louisiana, but he came to school here, and he left like in the 7th grade, and Joshua talks to him every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he still has formed friendships and long-term friendships. I mean, there's Christian, who's now living in Florida, like they were watching movies together with their VR headset.
Yeah.
Even though one was in Texas and the other one is in Florida, and Joshua went and popped popcorn, and you know, he could see Christian's silhouette
Yeah.
in this VR thing, and it was just really cool, so
That
he's
is
still been
really
able to
cool and
maintain
really
his
weird.
friendships. Yeah,
Yes.
I know, right?
I will tell you that I noticed that a few years back, and so one of the reasons we implemented the freshman retreat is to try to get that cohesiveness, because we do have kids coming in
Mhm.
and kids that leave, and we do want them to be a little closer. And as they said, there's a group, some of them came from lower school together all the way up, and so they've just naturally, but we also have seen that change, where they come from lower school and then middle school, something happens, whether it's developmental differences or whatever, and they're not as close in high school. So the goal with freshman retreat was to create that cohesiveness in the group as much as we can. Obviously, in a small building, the big class right now is the juniors. There's 32 or 34 of them. And so, but a lot of them have been together since lower school. I saw it on the junior trip. They know what buttons to push with each other to get them riled up, to calm down.
It's a real, close
Close group.
the majority of that group of
Yeah.
30-something are very close and supportive of each other. It's kind of amazing to watch over the years.
Yeah.
Because like Debbie goes Reese and Amy Gardner, you know, all of our kids go to school together, you know, and have been good friends for a long time. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the parents actually, you know, got to know each other.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard because everybody in Briarwood, everybody lives in different areas.
Right, that's our challenge.
That's
But,
hard.
yeah,
That can
you
be hard.
kinda, you just have to take those opportunities when you can, and I've noticed a lot of it happens through sports.
Yes.
You know, the kids get really, when they're, especially when they hit middle school and when they're eligible to start sports, encourage your kids to do sports, because they find their people,
Yeah.
they really do.
Yeah.
Some kind of
Even if
activity.
it's not sports, it's just
It
an
could be
activity, because
theater.
Josh was in
Well,
theater.
yeah, right.
There's
Yeah.
sports, whether it's, the theater group, whether, whoever it is.
Yearbook,
there's-
whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yearbook, things
But you
like
find-
that, there's lots of groups.
You know, but like sports in particular, and that's just from
Sure,
my
that's what it was.
experience, is because the parents are all there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, on the
Yeah.
weekends or at the games or whatever, and so you're meeting all of these parents,
Yeah.
you know, week after week after week,
Yep.
and then year after year after year,
Sure.
and it helps, it really does.
Yeah. I
Well,
think
we
what it
also
is-
have like, in the ninth grade, we have like a WhatsApp group thing
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
and so like they planned like something at Andretti's a couple weeks ago, and then like for the weekend before Thanksgiving, like we're planning to go to Santa's Wonderland and College Station, so like they put, like, there's parents that are planning things.
Yeah.
So that way, you know, we can just go and, you know, get to know and
Sure.
have that camaraderie.
And you do have to be creative, because we do live all
All
over the
over,
place.
yeah,
That's
that's
right.
our challenge.
All over the
I
place.
think
And
one
so to
thing we'll
create
see-
those, you have to be purposeful in creating those times together,
Yeah.
for
One
sure.
thing you'll see as they get older and start getting into upper school is it won't just be ninth graders together or 10th graders together, on and on. They will merge. Like my daughter is in
Yeah.
10th grade, she has a lot of friends who are in 11th grade.
Yeah.
You know, they
Like
don't
my daughter in
just
11th
stick.
is good friends with.
Right, right.
His daughter in 10th.
Right, I mean, they will see a lot of that happen, where, you know, they don't just stick with that group of
Sure.
their specific grade.
Yeah.
You know, because the grades are so small, I mean, like you said, the
Our
juniors are
seniors are-
large at 32
yeah.
or 34,
And the seniors are 16.
16. I mean, when our kids graduated last year, I think it was 22.
20, yeah.
20.
20 was it?
Yeah, last year's
And-
class was 20.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, if you merge two classes together, you're still probably not even talking 50 kids in a lot of cases.
Right.
You know, and so, and like I said, with sports,
Yeah.
you've got several different grades merging together there,
Yeah.
you know, with that. And
Yeah.
so you do kind of connect, and the kids do as well, with friends in other grades.
Mhm.
So
And
it's-
Kim probably has access to a list of who lives in your neighborhood, like by zip code. I know we used to have it for a
It's on
carpool, but you could find out other parents in your neighborhood.
Actually find it on the parent.
On the
It's on
portal,
here,
I was
or-
about
yeah,
to
so
say,
that
I was
to see who
looking
lives
at our
in your-
zip
Yeah.
code,
Yeah.
like you could
Yes.
filter by your
Zip
zip code,
code.
and they'll filter out.
We
Yeah.
service 71 zip codes.
We do.
It's
just 71.
Is it?
Yeah, I was looking, it's a lot.
It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and going a little bit back to sports, just, I don't wanna keep harping on it, but one of the things, you know, my girls have always just been swimmers, that's all they ever did. And, when Olivia came here as a freshman, she decided she would try for volleyball, she had never played volleyball before, ever. And it was very interesting for me, because I got to see when she was playing volleyball and basketball for the first time, the processing delay in action, which is watching the ball hit her in the head. And I'm like, okay. But you don't have to know how to play any of these sports. I mean, you get a chance to get out there and be a part of the team, and you don't have to be any good. And she developed a love for volleyball that carried her all the way through as a senior. But she tried different sports. She golfed. She was, I don't know, she did a few different things. She was on the swim team here. She was on the golf team. She did basketball one year. Not Olivia. Ava's done, cross country, track, tennis. And you get to try these things.
Yeah.
And nobody gets judged because some kids are gonna be naturally good and some kids are not, but they all just get together and they support each other.
Yeah.
And I really feel like Olivia, from the very first week that she was at Briarwood, started to find her people because of that volleyball team.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
So I would
thank you for
encourage them,
saying
even
that.
if they're not,
Yes.
Right.
inclined to do sports or theater or whatever.
It's a no-cut sport
encourage
here,
them.
so yeah, it's no
Yeah,
cut.
thank you,
try it.
because I was wondering about, I've seen all the little sign-up stuff for the sports, and my son as well, I'm like,
Don't be
not
afraid to
too
try.
good with the sports, I was
If they come
wondering.
in and
also
they say, I wanna do this, let them.
Yeah.
Because
Let
our
'em try.
only experiences are other kids who do not have any type of learning differences or anything, and I know like my daughter played volleyball, we were on the East Coast, it was ridiculous, like,
Still is.
you're not even gonna make varsity if you're not on the travel teams, forget about it.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not like
like
that.
a large public school.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, forget about it, like, if you're not on those traveling volleyball teams, you're not making varsity,
No.
you have to, because they kinda go and recruit at all the.
We have to do it year round. in
Yes,
those
like, it
sports,
was
yeah.
cutthroat, so that's why,
Yes.
that's my only experience, I was like, I don't know if we could try
No,
sports,
do not be
like-
afraid to try
Year
something.
round.
Yes.
Come to some of like the volleyball games or the
Yeah.
track
Yeah,
meets
we're
and stuff like
basketball
that.
games.
Yeah.
It's just it's a good thing. It's
You should come, next week they're gonna have a theater production, you should come check it out.
Oh,
Yeah.